Hey guys, welcome back to the Clack Shack. Tonight I've been working on a project for a fundraiser for a local organization here around my community. They asked me if I wanted to make a donation to an auction that they're having as a fundraiser. And so my wife advised me that she felt like the lantern sets that I do would be a good, a good thing that they could sell, maybe make a little money off of for the charity. I'll give you a little bit better look at these guys. They're very simple. This is a really simple build. Now these haven't been completely decorated. I'll probably add a picture or thumbnail of them decorated once my wife gets through with them. I don't do the decorations. She's the decorator, I'm the builder. I'm gonna get these over to her here in a few minutes, and she'll be getting the final touches done to them so that they'll be worthy of getting some bids. So while we're on the topic, let me go ahead and throw this out there. The organization they're doing the fundraiser for is called Butterfly Bridge. Just to give you a little backstory on Butterfly Bridge, I've had I guess you would say, relationship with them for about the past 20 years or so. They do child advocacy work and kids that have been through traumatic experiences. They do counseling, they do forensic interviewing for kids. Like I said, they offer free counseling, free things for the family to help recover when they've been through some type of a traumatic situation. And that pretty much covers basically anything that you can think of. And in my line of work, I tend to have to go and have kids interviewed with them quite frequently over the years. And so now that I've started with the Clack Shack stuff and doing my woodworking, I feel like it's only right that I give back to the group and try to help support what it is that they do. So I'm gonna drop a link to Butterfly Bridges in the description of this video, and I'll try to find a link for the auction where they're gonna be auctioning these things off. If any of you are interested and you wanna go and bid, you can get you some official Clack Shack material and make a donation to a good cause. So, but anyway, so what I'm gonna do, while I'm doing this build, I didn't really bring you guys along on these three, but I'm gonna do one more just to show you guys how easy of a build this is. I literally make these with little pieces of scrap that I have left over from other projects. I rip it down. So I'm gonna show you what all goes into making one of these, how to throw it together, and how to kind of add your own twist to it. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around. All right, guys, you still get a little bit better look at these things. So there you go. But the way I keep these things simple, I try to make this an easy build, easy measurements, easy cuts. And this is the exact measurements and everything for these. The only variable from box to box or from lantern to lantern is the length of the legs. And depending on how big of a room you're putting them in, according to my wife, the bigger the room, the bigger the lantern you may need, the smaller the room, smaller. There's a whole lot of dynamics that go into selecting the size that you want. I recommend if you don't have a woman around the house, ask them, because us guys are usually terrible at determining what looks good and what don't. I tell my wife all the time, she brings the ideas and I do the making. So, but just gonna walk you through the pieces of wood here that are required. All these are 3/4 inch cutoffs from where I make my stove covers. We buy 1x10s, which are, way wider than the 7.5 that I need. So we have to trim those down, make sure we got good square edges, good sharp edges. And so I end up with a lot of these little small pieces of wood like this left over after building, 10 or 15 stove covers. So I try to find projects that I can use this material to make a little bit of money back to offset my material costs for the stove covers. Because every little scrap of wood that you can use, guys, that maximizes your profit in the long run. So what these are is these are 3/4 inch pieces of material that's 3/4 inches thick. All right, so these are about 1 1/8 wide and 3/4 inch thick. So they're just, like I said, these just run-of-the-mill little pieces of wood. All right, I use the same stock that I got those from, and I cut these. All right, I made these 12 inches long because I'm gonna make my little demo is gonna be a little shorter one like this guy. So I made these 12 inches long. All right, I got 4 of them that I've cut. It's the same material. and I've cut these to 7.5 inches long. As long as you use all of these measurements, this is exactly what you got to have to throw one of these things together. So you need 4 pieces, 7.5. 4 pieces, I'm going with 12 on this one. This one can range, you can go all the way up to, probably wouldn't go past 18. 18, it starts to get a little sketchy without any cross bracing or anything like that. But 12 to 16 is usually pretty good with these. So these are 12s. All right, you're gonna need 4 of these pieces that are 6 inches long. This is the little base plate that I use to go in the bottom. And this little base plate right here is a 6x6 square, and it's 3/4 of an inch thick. This is another piece of wood that was left over from some stove covers. All right. The top plate is a 9x9. All right. I do router the edge if you choose. If you have a router table, you want to router the edge. If not, you can just sand it around the edges or whatever. But this goes on the top. So all in all, that's all the pieces that you need. All right, guys, I had to kind of move you up into rafters where you could see what's going on down here on the table. But the first thing that I always try to do is take the base. All right, you're gonna need the base. You're gonna need 2 of the 6-inch pieces for the ends to cap this with, and 2 of the 7.5s. And these go into the frame like this. The object here is to try to make this thing just look like it's a frame and with legs. All right, guys, so I got the majority of the frame together, and that's what it looks like. It is literally just a skeleton of a box, and it does have the floor in the bottom of it down there. But I've got that stapled together, got it glued. Gonna be letting that dry and just kind of sit, and I want to do the top. And what I want to do is I want to put this routed edge on the top like that. So I'm going to take this little 9x9 piece of material over to the router table, and we're going to put that edge on it. All right, guys, the cool thing about the measurements and everything that I use on these is when it comes time to put the top on it, if you use these measurements, then it's easy because you just take 2 more pieces of 3/4 inch scrap like these little guys, and you can just put one on either side of this, make sure it's pressed up against the edge of the material on the top, do the same thing here, and you're centered. So that is why I like this little design, because I don't have to sit here and try to measure and draw lines. I just throw some blocks up there, make sure I'm centered here, make sure I'm centered here, and then I take my little nail gun here, and I kind of have to tilt it on these and go in at an angle, because if I don't, they will come out the other side. So I just lean it to the angle, Fire me a few these guys in here, and we're good to go. And if you just want to add some added security, guys, once you get the nails in there, you can just take and pre-drill this little small piece of wood here with a drill bit. And then you can put some screws in the top of this as well. If you don't make it quite as short as this one, you can fit your Craig bit in there. But I made this one a little short. So now I've got plenty of room to put me a few screws in there. All right, guys, I put me 4 screws in the top here just to hold this together. If you want to put screws in these, I do recommend that you pre-drill. You could actually, if you didn't have an air gun, you can drill and put screws all the way around these. I just staple them and try to glue them. Typically that works really well. Sometimes, like I said, depending on how good a job you do gluing, you may have some issues, but for the most part, these are just decorative. They're not structural. They're not holding a lot of weight. And so the staples and the finish nails typically do a good enough job for that. All right, guys, for this build, my wife picked up these little handle, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's just basically it's a bolt with like a little hanger on the end of it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mark the spot for that before I do any of the finishing. And that way I can take this little X, I can sand this little guy off once I drill the hole. And the hole will already be there once I start preparing it for finish. All right, for the next process, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn the wood, which is going to add this dark, deep color to it. It's going to make it look a little unique. It'll also kind of smooth out any of these little fuzzies that may be on there because it'll burn them off, and just adds some character to it. Makes it look like it's a lot older wood than what it really is. I'm going to start underneath the top right here because I tend to forget to do this part, so I like to start with it. All right, so after a little bit of work with a torch, I've got this guy well distressed and well crispy. As you can see, I was having a little bit of problems with this sawmilled lumber here. Is weeping pine tar like there's no tomorrow, and that stuff will flame up in a heartbeat. This is actually some heart pine from a place near the river here, and so it's got a lot more lighter content than this stuff that you get from the big box store. So, but there it is, guys. I've got it framed out. I've got it this far. In case you're wondering why I left this, that spot right there is always reserved for my logo. So I've got a little stamp here that I made on the X tool that I use to, on the bottom side of anything I make, I like to put me a little logo there. So that's why I left that. It's under the bottom. That way it doesn't hide my logo. I want to be able to see it. And so there we go. Now I'm going to let this get to where it's not sticky before I hit it with sandpaper. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to sand the rest of this just real lightly with some 220 just to kind of knock off the soot and give it a little bit more richer color before I seal it. All right, guys, before I forget, this is the stain that I used on the wood. This is Minwax. It's called semi-transparent IP Switch Pine 221. So if you want some of that, if you want to try one of these, you like the way that looks, that's what I'll be using. The lacquer that I use is just Minwax lacquer. This stuff dries really fast. It's clear, it's glossy, and it brushes on flat, it stays smooth. It doesn't usually, now I'm not going to say you can't, but usually it's really forgiving for a couple of coats. So if you're like me and you're not real good with keeping runs out of your finish, lacquer seems to work a lot better for me than polyurethane. But it does have a loud smell, and it will get to you. So you might want to do it outside or with really good ventilation. All right, guys, the last part I'm going to do today, and I'm just going to do this to kind of show you the look. I've got this little handle that my wife and I picked up today. She rode with me to the Home Depot, and we stopped by Michael's as well as Hobby Lobby just to kind of browse and see what kind of project ideas we could locate as far as laser projects. And I actually picked up a few things that I'm going to be doing sometime in the next week or so. So now that I've got my holes already there, I can go in. I'm just going to put this on there and just finger tight it a little bit, just so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. And there you go. But that is that's what it looks like finished product, guys. I mean, so this little thing won't stand up on its own, but if you wanted one to be able to hang, this one would work. And then of course my wife likes to put those little battery operated candles in here. The ones that she bought today for the thing at Butterfly Bridges actually has a remote control, and then she has some greenery and that kind of thing that goes in there. But that's what that's the end product, guys. So if that's something that you're interested in, like I said, I shared with you all of the measurements, pretty much the entire process, and there are different ways. Like I said, if you don't have an air nailer, you could pre-drill these and use some small screws. That would probably hold better than the nails do. But for what they are, I haven't had any problems with the little finish nails and the staples. But yeah, cheap project as far as material. If you have some little scraps laying around, it doesn't take a whole lot to make one of these guys. And Hobby Lobby was selling a lot less authentic and rustic looking pieces for 50 bucks down there today. So, it's an easy project, and should be able to turn a profit on it. But don't forget to go check out Butterfly Bridges. I'm going to put the link for the event in the description if I can find it. And if you want to try to bid on some of this stuff, it's going to a good charity and a good cause. So until next time, guys, as always, be safe and have a good day.